Good morning traders, and welcome to this week's weekly market analysis class, Monday the 9th of July. Before we get started, as always, please understand that any advice in today's session is of a general nature only and that your personal circumstances have not been taken into consideration. Okay, let me bring forward what we have on our calendar for this particular week, and let's just make a couple of comments of what's happened last week. Well, last week we saw somewhat of a recovery for the sterling. Predominantly it came on the back of the services PMI data, and we found the floor for the GBPUSD. Not so sure yet. Let's just have to monitor what continues on that particular chart, but it did have somewhat of a recovery. From the US, the highlight of the week was non-farm payrolls that happened on Friday, where we saw an increase of jobs being created, but unemployment also went up. So it was a bit of a one in one hand, one in the other hand. It did have a more of a negative impact on the US dollar currency, but perhaps that is because of the trade wars that are happening at the moment. Canada has also participated in that, introducing tariffs on US goods that are imported into Canada. Of course, we know that China and the US are very much in that trade war, so to speak. One thing that I will say from the non-farm payroll data that came out on Friday was that the Fed Reserve now believes, or they've hinted at, a possible 2 rate increases for the remaining half of the year. From Canada, we saw their job numbers as well, and that was pretty much the same as the US, where we had more jobs but more unemployment as well, and that kind of neutralized itself out. Moving forward, if we have a look at what we have on our calendar this week, you can see what I'm showing you. We'll kick off with Canada has some relatively high importance news releases, and of course that is the interest rates on Thursday, their rate statements, and their monetary policy report, which is all due out on Thursday. So that's probably the highlight of the week in terms of all the data that's coming out. We have from the US crude oil, and we have CPI data on the Thursday for the US. So impacting data there. From the UK, we have the GDP numbers and the manufacturing numbers on Tuesday, and Mr. Carney will be speaking as well on Thursday, early hours in the morning, our time, of course. From Europe, Mr. Draghi's speaking a few times at the start of the week, but the predominantly data, or the most important one coming out, is on Thursday evening, and that's the monetary policy meeting accounts from the ECB. And particularly what we are looking for, what we're interested in, is what are their plans with their quantitative easing program. They have hinted at beginning to wind up that program. So let's see if they shed any more light on that and what direction the euro will take predominantly from that news. I believe that this week, due to news releases, the currency that's probably the currency pair that's going to have the most impact to data will be the USCAD. Okay, so please take note of that if you're a USCAD trader. And as always, guys, the times that I'm showing you are in my local time, which is Australian Eastern Standard Daylight Savings Time. Sorry, I should say Australian Eastern Standard Time. We are in winter right now. Okay, let's move along and let's start our analysis, and we'll kick it off with the Aussie US dollar. Having a look at our chart, from what we can see, we are on a daily Aussie US dollar chart here. It all looks very, very much one directional to me. It definitely looks like we are in a position of downtrend. Specifically, just want you to notice that the highs are getting lower. Okay, they are getting lower, so you can think of it as a bit of a staircase. We're going down the stairs. Also, if you look at the lows, they're also getting lower, which is a clear signal or clear indication that we are in downtrend. I don't think anybody is disputing that. So what I'm really interested on this particular chart, and there's really only one thing that I'm interested in, is basically trying to continue with the direction of the trade. So if I was to draw it out for you, if we're going down, hopefully here, right at that point there, it looks like we could possibly have the opportunity to hit a trade and continue in the downward momentum. So effectively what we would be looking for is, I'm looking for any kind of price action candle patterns to occur in this area, and if I do get it, well then essentially that would be the trigger or the setup to basically execute a continuation of trend trade as a short sell for the Aussie US dollar. So for those of you who don't know the candle pattern, let's just say the candles are exactly as they are. Let me just zoom in a little bit so we can all see it a little bit better. If that was the candle pattern right there, and let's say for example today's candle, let's say it finished looking like a candle like that as an inside candle, well then those two candles is exactly what we would be looking for, and then the following day at the break of that low would be our trigger to become sellers in the market. So it all depends on today's candle. Will it remain an inside candle? Well then if it does, we are set and ready to go for tomorrow. Euro USD, let's have a look how that is tracking for us. If I bring my charts forward, here's my Euro USD. Let me just zoom out a little bit so I can see a little bit better. Okay, a couple of important levels here. We can see that that level has held or there or thereabouts, but let me just move it across over here for one moment and just tidy it up a little bit and zoom back in. Okay, this pattern has got that look, the bounce off the table type look that I always talk about, which the market's come down, it's bounced lower, and will it continue to go down, bounce until it actually falls off the table, and then we can get a sharp descent off. Now it all depends on how high. If we break this level, okay, then basically what I've just said is off the table. It doesn't come into play. So there's a couple of ways that we can treat this particular chart right now. If you just let me just get rid of this and let me just box this zone up quickly. If I was to look at this particular one, the options that I have are that I could trade back in off that level, or if I was a breakout trader, I could look at the break away from that level. Currently where we are, because we are not at the perimeter of that zone, we just need to sit and wait. So let me just draw it out a little bit nicer. Just give me 1 second. If I just draw a straight line across there and another one down the bottom, just so that it just looks easier on the eye. So effectively what I'm looking for on this particular chart is, I could look for this. This would be a ranging type trade, okay, or I could look for that trade as well as I approach that perimeter. If it doesn't get there, okay, and it actually comes down to this level here, then the bounce on the table type trade comes back onto the cards, and we're looking for something along that manner where we can see that it's narrowing down into a converging triangle with a solid support level. Okay, so that's our Euro USD for this week, and that's we're at no point of taking action right now, but we are getting very, very close to critical areas. Let's look at the GBPUSD now. Okay, when I look at my chart, let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, it was in an uptrend, and then we can see this movement downwards, which has been happening over the last 2 months. Let's zoom back in, and the little bit of good news, well, we're kind of at that level there. This morning it gapped a little bit on the upside, and it's shooting straight back down. So let's see, ideally, before we could think that the trend has changed, we really need to get through this level. In other words, we would want this market to break through that level, and then we can say, all right, perhaps this is the floor. However, if, for example, now we get this type of setup today like this, well then it is more likely that we could continue in the downward trend as such, more so than in the upward trend. So right now we're at a critical kind of level. I really want to break that before I become a buyer again in this particular market, but let's just wait and see what this plays out. But that's our GBPUSD for this week. Let's have a look at the US yen. Okay, bring the chart forward, and what do we have? Zoom out a little bit so we can feel it. Okay, it is in uptrend, and there's an area up here where it feels like we are producing perhaps a converging triangle. And if I was to go into a 4-hour chart here, let me zoom out a little bit, we might feel it a little bit better. We could probably place this line a little bit better. On a 4-hour chart, definitely I can see that there could be an opportunity to take some type of a trade there back up that converging triangle. So that's definitely on the cards. When I look at my daily, it's also evident. We can see what we're specifically looking at. Now this type of pattern can it can be the reverse of what I've just shown you, where the pattern does this, and then it breaks into this direction. Okay, so let's see, there's two lines here that you should definitely look at and respect. This top line here, breaking that line, it could open up the upside. And also if you drop a time zone, say that 4-hour chart as I've shown you, you can possibly take a trade off this level back up there, and there is enough room on a 4-hour chart. Okay, so there you have it. That is our US yen for this week. USCAD, let's bring the chart forward. Okay, the USCAD is also one which is on the up. I just want to draw a couple of lines and just suss a couple of things out. I don't like that one. Let me just drop into a 4-hour chart here and just zoom out. I just want to see it a bit better. Okay, on a 4-hour chart, that line looks really good to me. You can definitely see that the market has bounced a few times off that level, and right now we are there again. Now just please note I am on a 4-hour chart, so let me zoom in. Oh, that is very, very unlucky. Let me zoom in a little bit more, because there was an inside candle there. These two here, the little red one is inside the big red one. However, this morning's candle has broken the low, so that cancels that one out. So we'll just need to see if we can produce another pattern right at this perimeter, and it may still give us an opportunity to take advantage of this support line. If not, we can jump across to our daily chart, and we could still trade it off that line off the daily chart, because off the daily chart we have not broken. This currently right now is an inside candle, so we would need to wait for today's candle to complete, and if it remains inside tomorrow, let's just say that it finishes up there somewhere as an example, tomorrow at the break of that candle, that could be a trade for us with the USCAD. Okay, so there you have it. USCAD is very close to a setup. The 4-hour could give you something within the day, but otherwise the daily, we need to wait for today's candle to finish, and it should be all visible for us tomorrow morning. Moving along, let's have a look at the Kiwi dollar. And if we have a look at this chart, again, very, very nice. There's nice trends happening in the market. I believe this was our daily call chart of the day, actually. We can see that the market's coming down nicely and moving along. So this one's looking really, really good. All, as I said, all we're looking for, as I said in the daily call, is we're looking for an inside candle. So if the current little candle, which is, you can see just there, remains an inside candle, well then tomorrow we are set and we can basically trade off that level. This is a pretty straightforward. I've already talked about this one on the daily call, so that's the Kiwi US dollar. Let's bring forward gold and let's see what's happening there. Okay, let me just zoom out a little bit. So that was a really nice double bottom situation, and if I zoom in I can actually see that there was an engulfing candle here. These two here, the blue one is engulfing the red one. So if you were in this trade, you would have entered the trade here somewhere, and it's up a little bit at the moment and not hit targets as yet, but that would have been a valid trade. If you did not get that, well then basically you just got to wait for the next possibility, which now if we ignore the bottom line, so we're ignoring that double bottom type situation, well then we could argue that the trade is in downtrend. Okay, we are on a daily chart. So if that was to be the case, then what we're looking for is we would be looking for somewhere over here to get some price action pattern inside that circle so that we could hit the trade in this direction. That would be a trade which is contrary to a double bottom based trade, but you have to pick your battle. So if you're in one, well then you obviously wouldn't be in the other one as well. So let's see if you're currently long, well then that trade is valid and you would stay in there. If you're not in anything at all right now in gold, well, and you've missed that one that's just gone by, basically your next opportunity would be to look for a short if it actually does come to fruition, because what might happen is this may just go up and plays out that first support bounce type trade of that double bottom, and then you don't end up getting another trigger. Okay, so there you have it. That is gold for this week. Looking at WTI oil, we can see that we're making higher highs. We're still continuing, and I'm just noticing right now, I think if I draw this along, yes, that's a nice resistance line, and there was nearly an opportunity in there, but basically what we're looking for in here is we want something to occur there that will indicate to us that there is a reversal happening, and then we would utilize the resistance level with the reversal pattern, which increases our probability to get a trade as a sell trade into WTI. So there, it looks like we've reached that level, and I can see that these two candles here was an inside candle. What I don't know is if it broke on the up or the down first. You can go and investigate that, and now if it has, you would be short. Let me just have a quick look for you. Give me 1 second. Okay, what I've done is I've jumped down to a 15-minute chart, and think of this candle being the engulfing candle. Let's just draw it out like that was the big engulfing candle. Okay, the inside candle, which was that doji, you can see is there. Okay, and then this is the day where we broke away, and I can see that the market came and actually broke on the upside first, because that was the previous high there. Okay, it broke the upside first and then broke the low side, so that means that that trade would not have triggered. So now when I go back to my daily chart, and let me just get rid of my period separator, so I put that in there so that I know where I am, and zoom right in for you. What I just did was I analyzed that candle there, these two here, okay, and I can confirm that this red candle broke up first before it broke down, which basically means that that was not a trade, it did not trigger. So having said all of that, what we really need is to see, we need to see this push up a little bit and show me something there before I can take advantage of that move. Okay, so there you have it. That's WTI for this week. The last instrument that we'll look at for the week is the ASX 200. Let me bring my charts forward and let's have a look at this. Okay, if looking at this section here, I can see that we are in uptrend. Let me just zoom out. I always like to zoom out. I might see something that I have not seen. Okay, and I can see something straight away. And the levels look okay to me, so let me start to zoom in a little bit so I can see it a bit better. Levels look good. Okay, so from what you can see here, I've basically just found the level where the market has been resistive and it's kicked off, and right now we are there at that level. So let's zoom right in and let's see what we can see. We're on a daily chart. Okay, so there's that level, that line stays on my chart. Okay, so in an ideal situation, today's candle, which is about to start very shortly, the market has not opened, if it sat as such like that and gave us an inside candle situation, well then tomorrow, should we break it in this direction, we could be sellers into the ASX 200. We're right at the perimeter, so let's see if we can produce what we're looking for and hopefully set up that trade for us. Okay guys, that wraps up this week's weekly market analysis class. If you do have any questions, please follow me on Twitter at ChatFX for trade setups and breaking news. Hope you all have a great trading day. Have a great trading week. I will talk to you next week for our weekly market analysis class. Bye for now.